Good evening, everyone. You're in the right place at the right time. This is Coast AM, blasting out of the Mojave Desert like a Scirocco, blazing across the land, into your town, into your home, slamming into your radio like a supercharged nanoparticle of unobtainium. Greetings to all of you from the boldest, bawdiest, most outrageous city in the world, the planetary capital of sun, fun, sin, sex, and secrets, my not-so-humble hometown, Las Vegas, Nevada. My name is George Knapp, your occasional host, designated driver of the airwaves, and moderator of tonight's upcoming cacophony of conversation. Glad to be back with you once again. We're going to get a little spooky tonight, a little bit eerie, with one of those shows that maybe you won't listen to it alone, or if you do, you might choose to leave a light on. Sometimes we explore mysteries and phenomena that could presumably have a rational explanation, but the accounts we're going to hear about tonight are difficult to explain away, primarily because there are so many of them, and their basis is so deeply rooted in the human psyche that these chilling tales of strange encounters have been with us throughout recorded history. We're also familiar with the story of werewolves, the Wolfman. That's primarily because of Hollywood. The hairy-handed gent who ran amok in Kent, as Warren Zevon put it in one of his songs. Abbott and Costello met the Wolfman. Jack Nicholson played one. His canine brethren have been battling vampires in two, not one but two, mega-hit movie series. This creature, or creatures, has been known by many names and appears in many forms. But the ones we'll focus on tonight are the canids, the canines, wolves, dogs. But not just any wolves or dogs. These are canines that walk on two legs, on 2 feet. They aren't quite human, but aren't quite dogs. They seem to pop up in out-of-the-way places and inopportune moments, and they understandably frighten those who see them. Sometimes they chase people. They've been known to kill game animals or livestock. Journalist Linda Godfrey has been writing about these encounters for several years. She first got hooked on the story because of some sightings of what became known as the Beast of Bray Road, and that research led her to expand her findings, casting a much broader net to find stories about wolfmen, dogmen, and other assorted creatures that seemingly should not, cannot exist. But there they are. People report them all over the country, all over the world. So what are they? What do they want? Tonight, Linda Godfrey will be here to talk about her latest book, Real Wolfmen, which, by the way, contains a few stories submitted by listeners of this program. So I would encourage anyone in our audience who's had encounters like the ones we'll be talking about to call in, share your stories, either in this hour when we open up the phone lines or later when Linda Godfrey is here. Of course, as some of you may know, this is a subject that is of interest to me because of work that I've done, helped on, regarding the Skinwalker legend. In particular, sightings of strange creatures in northeastern Utah and a few other places around the country, particularly here in the West, most of which seem to have a strong Native American connection to Native American cultures. And that's a seeming link that we will explore in some detail tonight during this conversation. Should be a good one. Welcome back, everyone. I'm George Knapp. Coming up at the top of the hour, Linda Godfrey here to share with us tales of the macabre from her new book, Real Wolfmen, True Encounters in Modern America. As an adjunct to that upcoming discussion, Webmaster Lex and I have a couple of related items in our Knapp's news section. You can find it on the Coast to Coast website. One item is a list of werewolf stories from history, some of which are, it sure seemed explainable to me, but a few of them kind of get the hairs of our human necks jumping up and down. And there's a story culled from online about current scientific research into crypto creatures. You might recall I had on the show a guest a year or so ago, Dr. Melba Ketchum, who told us about a little bit of the research she's doing to obtain scientific proof about unknown humanoids that are roaming the forest and outback of America. Call it Bigfoot or Sasquatch if you want. I only mention her work because it's getting so much attention online, even though Dr. Ketchum has tried to keep her findings kind of under wraps until she can get it all buttoned up and written down. But there have been so many leaks that a lot of what is known is out there in cyberspace. Much of it is wrong, by the way, but it's out there nonetheless. And her work focuses on DNA testing of unknown samples taken from places, locations where people say they see these big creatures out in the woods or in the forests or in the mountains. And according to some reports, unconfirmed by her, by the way, the results that have been accumulated already are directly relevant to what we're going to be discussing tonight. The article is there for you to peruse at your convenience on our Knapp's News section. Mars Curiosity continues to astound NASA scientists with all the data it's sending back. We've mentioned on the program previously that getting a spacecraft to Mars, of course, is not an easy task by any means. There's almost a Martian curse at work. I found a brief history of extraterrestrial landings. That's the ones that we humans are responsible for, that is. A fun little primer for those of you who follow space news. Along the same lines, do we have a secret space program? A lot of people seemingly in the know say yes. And there is some evidence to back up their theory. It may be the U.S. government really has been sending up craft and astronauts without any public acknowledgement. And I know it sounds far-fetched, but folks, I have personally interviewed about this. People who are in a position to know at least more than the average Joe say there really does appear to be something to it. We got a story there online. And a new theory about the origins of the universe. Not a big bang, but rather a big chill. Have you seen this story yet? A couple of Australian scientists have come up with what amounts to a new cosmology. They've run it up the flagpole for public comment around the world. See what you think, and maybe we can chat about that. For the rest of this hour, though, we can talk about whatever floats your boat. Opening up the phone lines right now. David, which one are we going to? Kevin in Georgia. Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
Just fine. How are you today?
Okay. What's on your mind?
Morning, I should say.
Yeah, it's not morning yet here, but close enough.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Doing all right.
What's on your mind?
I guess I should just go ahead and tell you. I had one of the scariest encounters of my entire life. I know people come on here and tell you their story, and it's like, what's this one? But on the way home years ago, I was riding on a scooter. We're talking about a small, slow-moving thing. And, you know, you talk about these werewolves tonight. The thing I saw moved with such amazing speed. The closest approximation I could tell you is, you know, like a kangaroo, the way they can, you know, make these long strides. It was only using its back legs, and, I mean, it was good, going a good clip. I'd say 45 miles per hour. It saw me, stopped, and turned around and headed back through the field. And, I mean, I've never been so scared in my life. I've been attacked by a dog, and I wasn't this scared. I knew, and we have deer around here. It wasn't a deer. It was on two legs, hairy, canine face, and it turned, and it headed for the woods. I couldn't even have caught it.
You live near Statesboro? Statesboro, Georgia?
Yeah, in Statesboro. Yep, the only one in America.
Where, so how far out of town was this?
Actually, it was very close to in town. Well, eventually what came into town, a couple of years later, they incorporated the area, and we now have a Mill Creek Park there. You know, they have baseball games and all that, but that used to be just a giant field. I don't know who owned it, but it was just overgrown, and whatever this thing was, it disappeared fast into there. It brings to mind just, you know, in the cornfield in that movie, what is it, Signs, you know, there's something that just through the field and gone.
Well, it's remarkably similar to a couple of stories Linda Godfrey is going to tell us, in particular that detail about the legs. Give us a little bit more of the description. How big you think it was? Was it covered with hair?
It was definitely covered with hair, and honestly, my thought in my brain, my first thought was wolf. You know, just it looked kind of like a wolf, and the legs were kind. You know, it had a dog's back legs, the back bending rather than knees like we have, and it was. I don't even know how many meters that thing was able to leap, and it wasn't running; it was leaping. That's why a lot of people might say, "Oh, deer," but this was not a deer. Deer have very short hair, and this thing had a long coat of hair like a timber wolf type animal. It was dark, so I couldn't give you a, you know, what the heck its color was, but I would say a brown.
Did you say that it sort of looked at you?
Well, I couldn't say it looked at me so much as when I came around the corner, it was like 3 in the morning, I got done with my job, this little scooter, I came around the corner, and I hear through, it flashing through, and it stopped as my light flashed, and then all of a sudden, I saw it turn. That was the only way I was able to see this elongated nostril, the lupine-type face, was because it turned and just, and I mean, that thing was gone so fast, I would have given it fair odds against cheetah in a full-out run.
Oh, I know how I would react. I wouldn't get out of the car and go out into the woods to look for tracks. But did you ever go back and look around? Did you ever go back, Kevin, and look around for maybe tracks?
Well, unfortunately, that was where I was living at the time, and I had to go by there all the time. And seriously, I had a hard time going back that way for a while. Never saw it again, and when they cleared that area, like I say, and put in the swim park and all this other nonsense, what always happens with creatures, they move further into the woods to get away from, men. So at least it was sensible enough to know that we're too dangerous to live around.
Tell me this: have you heard similar stories? Anybody else in that part of the country talk? I know that Linda has a couple of examples from Georgia in her book, but I just didn't know in your hometown whether you talked about it with your neighbors or friends, and whether anybody else had ever seen anything like it.
Not particularly. Now, in Scriven, they had their stories of spaceships for a while, and I had one of those myself, but that would be off topic. But as far as a large lupine creature, no, I've never heard anybody else mention it. And I told a couple, and the looks you get when you tell them that, you learn to save it for shows like this where, at least you'll get a fair hearing.
Tell me about that a little bit more. Now, who did you share it with? Family members?
Yeah, I mean, I woke at the time I was, still, I think, right out of high school and living at home. So I'd tell them, I was like, Mom, I woke her up because it was 3 in the morning, and she looked like she wanted to kill me. But I said, you should have seen it. It was a predator. That's something else, too. It was a predator. It set off that instinctive fight or flight, and in this case, flight for me, response in me as if it was instinctual. I mean, I've seen hundreds of deer. I've charging, moving back. This thing, when I saw it, my heart skipped a beat and then just went nuts. And it was like, it didn't have an aura, but my God, I knew I was looking at an alpha hunter.
That's a great story.
That was it. This was an aggressive hunter.
Kevin, I think your story has a ring of authenticity and truth to it. I think that Linda might want to hear from you. If you wouldn't mind leaving some contact information, I'm sure that she would maintain your anonymity if you don't want to give your full name. But if you would leave that info with Gina on our phone lines there, you might get a call. You might be in the next book, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. I appreciate the call. Thanks very much. Great story. Anthony here in my hometown of Las Vegas on the west of the Rockies line. Anthony, how you doing?
Hey, George. What I wanted to speak about is something that I'm seeing take place right now, and it kind of revolves around the political system. And it seems to be a system of divide and conquer. And people, they have so much arrogance and ignorance. These two things that I encounter so much is people are so locked set in their beliefs, and they're so willing to debate and argue rather than have an open mind and just discuss. And when you're talking about our own country, our own leadership, and things of that nature, I think it's almost debilitating not to have an open mind, And I read a quote from George Orwell's book, 1984, and it kind of sums up what we're going through. And what that is war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. And I think that's exactly what's taking place right now.
Well, Anthony, you're preaching to the choir to some extent. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times without going into a lot of detail. I know that this is sort of a raw nerve time to talk about political topics, and we're not going to go delve into it too much. But, It is a shame that we're not able to discuss issues and differences and similarities without getting into a shouting match. And I understand why our country is facing a lot of problems. And I know that there are very deep divisions. And I know that there are people who say, well, political campaigns have always been nasty. It goes back to the founding of the Republic. They would run nasty ads about each other and spread nasty rumors and things of that sort. And I know that's true, but I can't imagine that it was ever like this, or that our country, since the Civil War, was ever this divided. I have friends that you like to talk to your friends and family members about political issues to sound them out and see how they feel about this or that issue. And it's tough. It's tough to even have a conversation. I end up avoiding the conversation altogether because you know that there's a danger that it ends up in an argument that you may never recover from. Agreed?
I 100% agree with you. I just can hope that something can change, or else we're going down the river and not going to be able to turn back. And it's just robbing future generations of what we got to cherish, and that's freedom.
Well, I agree with you there. And, neither of the parties, no politician has a lock or cornered the market on truth or the answers. It has to be a combination of different viewpoints that lead us forward. And, I worry. I worry about our country. I think probably everybody listening to this does the same.
Yeah, I do very much, and I appreciate you, George.
Anthony, thanks for calling in. Hope you're having a nice, pleasant evening here in Las Vegas. It's a beautiful night in the desert. We're going to go take our break now and come back with more of your calls here on Coast to Coast AM. Don't go anywhere, everyone. A couple of listeners have written in and given me an update on different situations around the world regarding earthquakes. One says that a friend near Boulder, Colorado, has reported earthquakes 4.0 and a 5.0 in a 10-minute period tonight. And then we got a couple of you have written in to say that there was a gigantic earthquake off the coast of Central America, off El Salvador, 7.4 on the Richter scale. And at least according to this one listener, an important tsunami warning has been posted for the west coast of Central America, warning people to get ready because something might be coming their way. We'll keep you informed about that situation as additional details come in. Top of the hour, we'll be talking with Linda Godfrey, author of Real Wolfmen. For the time being, though, we'll take our break and come back with more of your questions and comments right after this on Coast to Coast. George Knapp, we're going back to the phones. First-time caller James in Denver. James, you feeling the earth move in your neck of the woods?
No, sir. I didn't feel any of it.
Well, good.
I was about 10 miles from it, but I didn't feel anything.
What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I've been listening to art since art started, but this is the first time I got through.
Well, we're glad you called.
And I'm interested in everything where we come from. And I think all of these scientists, what they come up with, they're partially right, but there's something missing. We come from something or something, someone. But what I wonder is, where's the proof? They haven't showed any.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I guess the proof is in math. Basically, they conduct equations. They measure what we know about the universe, how much it's expanding, and they project back to see when it all started. And I agree with you. There's never been a satisfactory scientific explanation of what there was before then. There are some ideas that maybe the universe contracts and expands, and it just has always been. And I know that's hard for us to get our head around. It certainly is for me, but that is the prevailing point of view, I think, at the time.
I think we're part of a multiple universe. One gets rid of itself, then another forms out of the leftovers. And in every cell, we have molecules of what was. There's proof of that.
We are star children, in a sense. The atoms that make up our body came from stars billions and billions of years ago, and that's a mind-blower when you think about it. I agree with you, James. I think there are multiple universes, maybe multiple realities, other dimensions we haven't quite nailed down yet. And the true nature of reality, the true shape of the universe and the cosmos is much bigger and more wondrous than we can imagine.
our eyes can't see what is out there. What we can't see, it's on us and around us.
I agree. I sure would be nice to have some answers, solid answers to some of these kinds of big questions. But I don't know. I don't know that maybe we're not meant to have solid answers. Maybe it's supposed to be that we strive to find out, and that's maybe one of the reasons we're here. James, thanks for calling in. I'm glad you got through. I hope you'll try again sometime.
You.
All right. We're going to go to Logan in Texas on the wildcard line. Hi, Logan.
Hey, George, how you doing, man? Just want to say real quick, I love the show, Coast to Coast. Became a big fan recently. I've been listening to you ever since I heard you, man. Like, I heard of, yeah.
Glad to hear it.
But yeah, I'd like to talk about two subjects tonight, actually.
Okay.
First subject is, space, secret missions NASA's sending. I believe in that bigly. I believe NASA's going into space for reasons up there. I believe they have a base on the dark side of the moon, actually. Like on the dark side of the moon, they're there setting up stuff. And in Mars now, they're exploring Mars. So I think, they're trying to get resources or stuff like that.
What you believe it? Why? Do you have some kind of insight in this, or your own sources of information?
The moon, we only see one side of the moon, right? Am I correct? Like, it doesn't have no spin, no orbit. It orbits the Earth facing one side only. And I heard some scientists were trying to do a research to see if the moon was hollow or whole by sending a frequency, a wave, kind of, and they found that it had like a ping noise, like, so they considered that it would be this hollow. The moon's hollow, like it's a base, like something, like the moon's like artificially made or so. Like the Death Star from Star Wars or something.
Yeah, that topic has been explored on the program, not by me, but by the other host, George Norrie. The idea that the moon was a satellite of some sort, not just a satellite of Earth, but literally a satellite that was created by someone. I don't know enough about the state of the evidence to offer an opinion, but it sure is fun to kick that around. My friend, of course, John Lear, who lives here in Las Vegas, has all kinds of theories about what's on the moon, on the other side of the moon, structures, and he's not alone in that regard.
Yes.
Logan, I appreciate the call. And did you had one more other topic?
Yes, our friend Alex Jones, I heard that his house got broken into recently, this Friday. Then the weird thing is how they broke into his house. They used his security code. They punched it in somehow so the alarm won't go off. But they didn't take nothing at all. They didn't rob him. Supposedly that's like a message somehow. They say because I heard that he got suspended from his show not too long ago.
I know that he was, I think he hosted Coast to Coast here not too long ago in the last couple of days.
Right. Exactly. He was talking about freedom of speech or something like that.
Yes. Well, I'm surprised it's taken this long for somebody to break into Alex Jones's home. I mean, he ruffles a lot of feathers, and the description you just gave of a break-in where nobody takes anything, that's one I've heard before about people who have been whistleblowers who've said something that the government doesn't want said, and people just mess with them. Some unknown people mess with them, mess with their heads, let them know that they can do things like that with impunity, and that's a scary thing. And that's a scary thing in this country. Logan, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Dave in North Carolina has a werewolf story. Dave, thanks for calling.
It's really strange to think I'm calling a place or calling a show with a werewolf story. But when I heard that guy describe that, I thought, even as a cynic and an agnostic, I know what I see sometimes. I can't deny that I see it. I don't try to explain it. Not saying it was a werewolf, but my wife and I both stopped and looked at each other with, did you see that? And then once we found out that the other saw it, we kind of got excited about it because it seemed so crazy to see that had I been alone, I would have dismissed it. And so would she have, because I have a little bit of astigmatism. So sometimes when I look up, there's a delayed reaction of a small gray thing darting across my eye. Not that this could have been that, but it was in that sort of, I didn't see that. I just dismissed it.
Give us the when and where.
I'm sorry?
Give us the when and where. When did this happen, and describe what you saw?
This was around 2007-ish, something like that. We still lived in Indiana along the Wabash River, very close to it. Our house, our little blue house there, was no more than 100 yards from it. And there was a small wooded area and some railroad tracks, and we were next to a meat packing plant. So anyway, we were just out in the yard, in our fenced yard, and this thing wasn't in our fenced yard. It was just outside, and it sort of just glossed by. Like when he was talking about the leaping, it was just silent. It was like, and it was gone. Like it took 3 steps to go 50 yards. And I'm sure that other caller is coming out of his skin and go, yeah, because we're both visualizing the same thing. And then I kind of looked at my wife like I might have told her, hey, I think I just saw, and even when he described the hair, I was seeing something that was almost like if you had let's say a German Shepherd or a Husky, and you took another fur and you laid it on top of them, and then you took another pelt, almost till they started to get a width like a horse, just really wide back, long bushy tail, and coarse, thick hair. Now you might ask how, if I saw something quick in a flash, I now have all that detail. It's because that's what I thought I kind of saw in the light. It was next to there was a meat packing plant, like I said, and then over right to the straight to the west of our place, there was a little engine generator, a little electronic motor manufacturer or shipper or something. And there was a light right out there along their building, and the building is white. So there was some contrast, and it was just for, let's say, 1,000, 2,000. That's all you get, of a flash like that. But then the more I thought about it, I was describing it. My wife started describing it to me, how she saw it run. I was like, yeah. So it made it all that more exciting. Unlike, unfortunately, that guy saw it by himself, and he can only tell certain people. My wife and I can tell somebody that, and when the next person looks at us and says, you're a kook, the other one can step in and go, no, I saw it with him.
Yeah, I mean, they can say you're a kook, but what's in it for you? Why make up that story that invites criticism,
Right, especially, like I said, as a cynic, I don't believe in Bigfoot. I don't believe in Loch Ness. I think it's, a lot of things are possible beyond what I could imagine, but I try not to imagine them. I don't read.
But this was not any animal that you've ever seen before.
No,
Obviously.
I'd say it was a lot like wolves and dogs and other things I've seen, but we're just talking about a different size and running ability. I mean, you would expect if a dog had no body weight whatsoever and could just sort of almost float, then, yeah, they get that kind of speed. And also when things that big run by, and we're only talking about, let's say, had I seen it coming, I might have been able to hit it with a football or something, 20 yards away. It was that kind of distance. But I was looking at her, and all of a sudden I just looked out, and glanced across the yard and saw it run across and to the other yard. And then we looked at each other and like, did you see that?
Did it run
nice.
On all fours, or was it on 2 legs?
Yeah, I didn't see it. It seemed to be on all fours because it was head in front of the tail. You know what I mean? Not above the tail. It was moving by quickly and low to the ground and silently. And those big leaps, and then right toward the woods next to the river. And we don't we hadn't been reading any werewolf books or anything. It wasn't suggested to us in any way. It just sort of having a conversation in the yard, having a cigarette, and suddenly there it was. And I was glad she was there because, well, like I said in the beginning, I would have dismissed it had it just been me. I would have thought I didn't see it. And I have a vivid imagination as to what I might have not seen. But having both of us describing it to each other and interrupting each other as we're describing it, it was worth telling the story, especially hearing that guy describe it. I was on the edge of my seat going, wait, talk about the fur. Talk about what the fur looked like. Describe it that way. And then he started doing it. I was like, that's pretty funny. Except I didn't get the color. He said brown, and I never got a brown. I got a charcoal gray, black, very dark, no color really, just maybe the gloss off the light, just the shadow of it moving, but not really any kind of brown.
I'll tell you what, in a field like this, you said you're a cynic. Skepticism is a good thing. It's a good thing. You shouldn't just buy whatever people tell you, but I think you will be amazed when you hear Linda Godfrey later, if you listen to the rest of the program, describe other encounters, because what you're describing, this big thing that was just really big, she has several cases like that. She even called it a werewolf, I think, in this book. where witnesses have seen this. She will also tell you that sightings right next to bodies of water are one of the primary characteristics of the reports that she's got. And the fact that there's a meat plant there makes me think maybe it was drawn by the smell of something to eat.
Well, I'd say it was moving diagonally across the. See, we lived at a three-way stop there. There was a road going by, and then one that came to it to a T, and it ran diagonally right through that from the direction of the meatpacking plant, behind the electrical battery or electric motor plant, and then right toward the woods. And we were outside for a while, sitting there sipping coffee and looking around, wondering if we'd see it again, and hoping we didn't.
Hope you had a good night's sleep that night.
Oh, yeah, I always sleep well because I can brush that stuff off. I'm a cynic.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Dave, I really appreciate you sharing that story. And again, as with the other caller, if you wouldn't mind leaving some contact info, maybe Linda wants to talk to you about that. That's a pretty good tale.
If she's going to be on right away, I'll just hang here on the line a minute if you want.
She's coming on, but it'll probably be 10, 15 minutes. Why don't you just leave the number with Gina, our screener, and
Sure.
and Linda can call you. But I appreciate you calling in. Thanks very much. Travis in Knoxville, Tennessee. Travis, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, George?
All right.
I just wanted to say, first off, I've been wanting to call you, just let you know how well you're doing as an interviewer.
Thank you.
But I have a story. Basically, I used to live up around Cleveland in a suburb by the park area. It's very heavily wooded in an area behind the house I lived. I actually got lost back there and spent the night in the woods with a couple friends because it was pretty, it was a maze of mountains and trees, and I mean it was big enough to get lost in. I used to go running back there. There's a Goodyear track out in the middle of the woods, so I used to go running through the woods with my dogs and go to the track, and a lot of people would go to the track as well from the Goodyear company. But I went through the woods because I lived in the house, and I went back there, every day for a couple of years. And one day I was just exploring with my dog and came to a little spot, and just the hairs on my neck stood up, and it was like, okay, something is here. It's just not right. And I kind of, just hightailed back to the house, took the dogs with me, and stayed, didn't really, I pretty much decided I'm not going to go exploring in the woods behind the house anymore, just based on a feeling. And plus, after that feeling, this was a pretty boggy area. I looked down, and there were dog prints that weren't from my dog as well. So, that kind of made me real nervous. And within a week or two, this was back in like 1996 or 98, right around there. Within a week or two of that experience, I was still kind of in high school, and I was about 3 a.m. I was sneaking out behind my house to smoke a cigarette because I wasn't supposed to be out there. And I heard something out back there in the backyard, and we had a big dog fence to keep our dogs in. And then I'm looking, and I see something, and I could hear it sniffing around, and it was walking around basically by our barn. And it was about, I'd say, as big as at least a Rottweiler. But
Travis,
when this thing caught, like, scent of me or something, it just charged headstrong right in, basically tried to knock the fence over to get to me, and it made almost no sound except that it was coming right at me.
But it didn't attack you, though, right?
What's that?
It didn't get to you, right?
Oh no, I ran right in the house.
Hey, Trav.
My hand.